Okay, so we're going to set ourselves up for the Localizer Runway 27, full approach, circle to land, runway 18 right. The first thing we want to do, as we're being vectored around here, we're heading a 090, is go to the FMS and enter the approach. We select nav, arrival, that's line select 3 right. Select the runway, which is line select 1 left. It's going to be runway 27, line select 2 right. Localizer 27 is what we're going to select. Here, that's going to be line select 2 left. And we want to select grit, again 2 left here. The reason we want to select grit is because it's going to build us a racetrack procedure turn. So we'll select grit, line select 4 right to arrival, and then activate it again, line select 4 right, and you'll see it build it out here for us. There's grit. I want to go direct to grit now, so I'll go direct grit and hit LNAV. And while I'm in the FMS, I want to go to the progress page and make sure the frequency is in there. Now it auto-tuned for us, which is good, but I always like to make sure that it's in there, and I'll even retype it. IJIM on the left, IJIM on the right, and then I'll verify it in both radios. Frequency 108.7 on the left, 108.7 on the right. Then I want to come up here to the display controller. I want to select nav and then preview. Nav 1, select my course of 3273, then hit return, and preview will be boxed. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Preview, in this case nav 2, return, and preview is boxed. The MDA today for the circle is 1020, so we'll open that up, select 1020, and then press the button again and box it, and it will show 1020 right here at the MDA. Same thing on the right. So we're inside grid. It's doing its own little procedure turn here, as you can see. Since I have it all set up, there is a way to operate this or do this by using the approach button. Now when we press the approach button, it's going to give us localizer and glide slope. We don't want the glide slope because it's a localizer only, and I'll show you that in a moment. But since we are outbound now with the procedure turn, I'm going to slow ourselves down by using flaps 10. That'll slow us to 180. But if you notice the 188 here, that 188 represents maximum endurance speed. The airplane knows that we are inside the hold and it wants to slow us down to maximum endurance. But I'm going to slow us down a little more by going to flaps 10. Flaps 10, this will now say 180. So flaps selected 10, auto speeds will show 180, and it does. I'm going to start our turn back in. I'm going to add another 10 degrees of flaps to slow us down a little further. No sense running around this racetrack at high speed. So flaps selected 20. Auto speeds will now show 160. We're turning around the procedure turn inbound. I also know that when I get back to grid, we want to descend on our first step down from 3,000 feet that it's holding now to 1,900. So I'll just preset that. It's not going to go anywhere because this is just my wish list. When I want it to go somewhere, I'll select vertical speed or flight level change, most likely vertical speed. Now as you can see, we're turning inbound to our course, but only when we get within a 90-degree angle and heading right toward our course will I press the approach button. You don't want to do it anywhere else. You want to be within that 90-degree angle and heading toward your course, and I'll select approach. When I do that, notice that localizer and glide slope are in white. So the localizer is standing by, but the glide slope is also standing by, and we don't want that. This is just a localizer approach. But the way we do this approach is we arm approach. It goes from blue needle to green needle, as you just saw here. I'll also have the nav page set up for me. So I'm in localizer, but look at that glide slope. It's still there in white, meaning it's standing by. I don't want that. So to prevent the glide slope from capturing, I will go back and select LNAV, which is lateral navigation, Lateral navigation is going to navigate depending on whether I have the nav page here in the FMS, whichever it is. Obviously, it's switched from FMS because we do the entire procedure turn in Blue Needle, but then when it switches from Blue Needle to Green Needle, it goes to nav, and when I press LNAV, it will now track on the Green Needle. So we're about 2.5 miles from grit. I've got flaps set at 20, coming in here at 160 knots. I've got 1,900 feet set here. That is our next step down after we reach grit. If you look at the FMS, it will say exiting hold. The FMS is smart enough to know, hey, all we wanted to do was go into a procedure turn. Even though it had a racetrack hold depicted, it knows all we want to do is procedure turn, just turn back around and come inbound. And that's why we see exiting hold. If we wanted to reactivate it after exiting the hold, we can hit resume hold. So we're coming up on grit. We're about 0.3 now. At 0.2, right now, I'll select vertical speed, and I'm going to come down at about 1,200 feet a minute. I want to get down. At this point, I'll ask for gear down to before landing checklist. So since I'm the only one flying, I'm going to select gear down. Got 3 green. Nutcracker left and right is there. Ground spoilers are armed. Warning inhibit is on. Flight ref page is up on the right hand side. And I'll continue before landing checklist. Before landing checklist is complete. Since I want to be fully configured way before the final approach fix, which is grind, I'll select flaps 39 now. ASAL, altitude select, 1900. As soon as it says altitude ALT here, means we got altitude hold, shows it here. I'll set our next altitude, which happens to be our MDA of 1,020 feet. There she is, 1,020. I also know that when I get down close to the runway and I want to do my circle to land, then I want to turn 45 degrees off our current course here. At 45 degrees is 315. So I'll set 315 into the heading selector here, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to set it and leave it. And then when I want to make my turn, I'll just press heading and it will go. Ideally, you want to be way ahead of the airplane at all times, but especially on a localizer approach. So we're coming up on about 1/2 mile from grind. Point 4, 0.3, 0.2. I'll select vertical speed. Now it will come out of that altitude that it was holding. I'll go down at about 1,000 feet a minute here. And I want to wait until I get into my safe zone, which is standard at 2.3 miles from the runway. Airplane is in real good position. All set up for landing, fully configured.
1,000.
Yeah. Standard callouts, right? That's 1,000 feet above the ground per the radar altimeter. So we got about 3 miles away from the runway. At about 2.3 miles from the runway, I'll select heading. That's going to come on. We're not doing the glide slope, obviously. You can cancel that by glide slope inhibit right up above the pilot display here. Where are we? 2.3, I'll press heading, select. The airplane's going to make our turn to a heading of 315, 315.
Minimums.
Thank you. As soon as the airplane rolls out, I'm going to hack time for 20 seconds. There's rollout. Time is hacked. And after 20 seconds, what I will do is turn back to my course of 273, parallel the course, and I'll start looking for the runway. There's 3 runways. There's runway 18 left, 18 center, and 18 right, which is a little further out. And 18 right is what we want. There's 20 seconds. Let's turn back to 273. Okay, I see 18 left here, I see 18 center, and I see 18 right. So when I get to about 18 center, I'm going to start us down vertical speed at about 400 feet a minute. Pretty good right here. Vertical speed, about 400 feet a minute. I do see my runway, and I will start my turn. Continuing the descent. Continuing to turn.
500.
Keeping the auto throttles on for right now.
400.
This is going to be an accuracy landing, so what we want to
300.
do is get it stopped in a very short period of time.
200.
So auto throttles are going to come off. I'm going to slightly bring the throttles back. I'm at ref plus 10 for this whole thing,
100.
but I want to be ref right over the numbers,
50.
which is where we
40.
are.
30. 20. 10.
And you want to put it right down on the numbers which we did, or actually not the numbers, but the aiming point, which is the 1,000-foot marker. Maximum braking, maximum reverse. Get the airplane stopped, and you should have about 6,000 feet left, and we have about 6,500 feet left. That's how you do the localizer, runway 27, circle to land 18 right.